Hey everybody, welcome to the latest installment of Podcast Beyond. I'm Jeremy Denham, Games Editorial Manager here of IGN.com. Today we're joined by a very special guest, the Warhawk Czar, Director of Warhawk, and that would be Dylan Joe.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
And as always, we are joined by PlayStation Team Editor-in-Chief Chris Roper.
Yo, what's up?
And editors Greg Miller and Jeff Haynes.
Hi.
What's crack-a-lackin'?
Nothing much.
Just putting it out there, man.
All right.
And before we get to anything, as usual, we've got to go to the Roper Report.
Time for some news.
So I just ran out and got these, but fortunately there wasn't much of a delay because not much news happened this past week. Really, the biggest thing, which we probably talked about in GameScoop and all these other ones you'll hear about, is that EA upped its shareholding, I guess, of Ubisoft, whatever it is. So they went from about 20% up to 25%, basically voting shares of Ubisoft, so now they can say don't make games anymore or whatever they want to do, which would be pretty funny. So who knows what's going to happen over there. And apparently over the next year they have the option to buy more if they wanted to, so they're in position to do some really nasty shit to Ubisoft.
EA is slowly taking over the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trying to play it though, like they didn't know it was going to happen or whatever. Like, oh, this is just a time-based thing, because they bought the original shares and then it kind of matured, kind of thing. So.
Well, part of it is the exact same thing that they had when they bought the 20% shares. It was like, we have 12 months to do whatever we want. We're not going to exercise like putting anybody on the board. We're not going to decide how exactly your company is going to be run. But we have the option in the future if we want to.
Huh. So they got 25% of the voting stock accidentally.
No,
just happened.
they knew. The French will just give you 25% of anything.
And the only other real notable piece of news is that of course on Thursday was the PlayStation Store update, and Piyotama hit the store, and then a bunch of trailers, but nothing.
Nice kowtowing with Sony in the room.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a standard update, which I mention every week, but there wasn't really much on there aside from Piyotama, which is actually pretty fun.
Yeah, you liked it. You gave it a 7.5, I think?
Yeah, it's a good puzzle game. It's $2.99, so.
Well, I'll tell you the news that bothered me that they did announce was that Irrational Games changed its name.
Yeah, I didn't mention that one because that was more of an overall game thing, and they're more tied to the PC stuff. But that is a pretty big one, I guess.
They spent years building up this name. Here's Irrational.
What did they change it to?
Now they're 2K Boston.
They should have changed it to More Rational Games. Yeah, it's maturing, and we were irrational, but now we're not as irrational.
Exactly. That's a good idea.
Now we're sane.
Semi-sane.
Well, see, you know what it was? Is I figured they're doing the same thing that Rockstar did when they bought DNA. And so you have like DNA doing Grand Theft Auto, and they go, oh shit, this game, this is a huge franchise. Let's rename them Rockstar. And it's worked for them because now everybody pays attention to games like Midnight Club and Manhunt and all these other games because you have the same name attached that makes GTA. So I think they're trying to do the same sort of deal. If BioShock comes out and sells 1 million plus copies, like everybody I know in the office hopes that it will, then they're going to go, okay, 2K has a nice development team, and let's buy all these other crap games.
I'm just always wary of the fusion of development teams into the publisher, because remember, that's what happened to Westwood Studios, and now Westwood doesn't exist anymore. And those guys have gone the way of the dinosaur.
But they did make a good Monopoly game.
Indeed.
Let's not lie, folks. That was a damn good PC.
That's true, and that's the
game.
first game I can remember that had Westwood Chat, too.
Oh my god, it was so good.
And Westwood
Play
Chat
online,
was good.
Case ladder system.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love Monopoly, and I don't think I ever played it.
Oh, you are missing out.
Sweet.
Yeah, they had FMVs for everything.
Did it have Tiberium in it?
No, it came before CNC, I think. Right? It was before CNC.
I believe so.
It's like 94, and CNC was 95, I think.
But the spilling of money out of off the board was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, man, what a game.
And the video
They don't make them
compression
like
was
that anymore.
only chance. The charts. So today's main topic, as you might have guessed, is Animorphs, since Dylan is here.
Animorphs?
Animorphs.
Thanks.
A few people know that you actually did work on that game, did you not?
Yes, very, very minimally. Back in my days at Single Track, I worked on it just a little bit. And actually, I don't even know if any of the content that I did ended up in that game. That was a pretty... I was just like, I think it textures and modeling back on that. So... I have a credit on that game, but I don't think anything I actually did shipped in that title.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And then just like that, our topic of the day's over.
I'm actually not that unhappy about it. So.
If Warhawk doesn't hit its numbers, it'll be the same thing in a month. Oh, I have credit on Warhawk.
No, because they didn't have podcasts back then.
No, okay.
Like, Dylan, we've recorded you like your game's czar. No, czar actually means I was just a plebe. I was a puppet.
It was the figurehead tag.
I was a puppet.
I was the one they put out there to kill while the real one ran away.
That's right. I'm the evil doppelganger.
So, for those of you who are not on our board, what we did is when we announced that Dylan will be coming on this week, last week we posed to our listeners to ask if they could give us a bunch of questions to ask him today so that we could really focus on Warhawk and what's in store for it and maybe answer some of the questions a lot of people have had that haven't really had answers until now. So, with that in mind, be prepared for a very large Q&A because in addition to our typical stuff, we also have the Warhawk stuff. So this is all questions. The All Question Podcast.
Bring it.
So
Warhawk
first up,
PSQ.
That's right. Exactly. Warhawk PSQ. First up is H. Rooster.
H. Rooster.
And he wants to know, Dylan, is
No,
if
that's a chicken.
He did it. Why look at me?
Sorry. No, a cock sounds totally different.
That's true. Have you seen Hell's Kitchen? It's true. H. Rooster wants to know if there's any truth to the rumor that Warhawk will have better graphics at release and 32 by 32 maps.
Yes, on the graphics. I think what they might be referring to is since the beta, there were definitely some graphic enhancements that we did after the beta. Mm-hmm. We don't support 64 players, so sorry, Mr. Rooster, no 32 v 32. But graphics-wise, yeah, we went through and a lot of our artists did shader passes and updated a lot of the textures and made them feel more crisp, up their resolution. We went through and had a lot more of the elements in the game level cast shadows. So, for example, in the archipelago level now, there's lots of jungle vegetation all over the ground, and it all casts shadows. So you can be sneaking through the palm trees and the vegetation and see all the cool shadows.
Nice.
So yes, on the graphics, but sorry, no 64 v 6 or 64 player.
Would it ever be realistic to expect a player jump, or is it always going to be locked at 32 players max, you think?
We'll see. I think we get asked this all the time, like it's some type of do you have the balls enough to do 256 versus 256? And it's like, well, we could probably do it, but with our technology and with the pacing of the game and with the size of our levels and supporting 4-way split, 32 was a good solid number for us. And if in the future, if people are like, oh, we want 1,000 versus 1,000, we'll probably tell them no. But if there's a good opportunity to do a large player count, we'll look at it. But we're really happy with 32 players.
1,000 versus 1,000 would be something else.
That would be turn-based at that point. Exactly. It would be turn-based. I cast Fireball!
This is a question from Night God of War that I actually was wondering as soon as it was announced that you're going to have multiple forms of combat, and that's how much focus is there on the ground combat as opposed to the air combat to make sure that's just as enjoyable?
Right. This is a great question because I think a lot of people, they see Warhawk and they think they go all the way back to the original Warhawk, which was just air combat. And we really knew that we wanted to keep the multimodality. And I'll say at this point right now that we should multimodality.
Yeah.
It is, but it's purely sexual, and nice. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it really enhances the emergent gameplay that can happen. And I think we talked about this in an earlier podcast, but we're going to make the term sandbox off limits because everyone says sandbox all the time, so we won't say it anymore.
Okay.
But having different ways to kill and die on the foot, in the air, in a vehicle was really important for us. And one of our key tenets during the entire production was to make sure that all the different modes were what we refer to as first-class citizens. And it really paid off because some people that absolutely hate air combat, they would never have played a game like Crimson Skies, which was awesome, or Ace Combat. They play Warhawk and have a great time. We had at one of our media events, I had one of the press guys, I can't even remember his name, he came up to me and he said, yeah, I don't like playing flight games.
Does he work for somebody else?
No, I don't think he worked for you guys.
Okay, but don't worry about him.
And I said, well, play Warhawk and give it a go. And he was squealing like a little girl the whole time. And he says, yeah, I had a great time. I said, what'd you think about the Warhawk? He said, I never got in it. I was on the ground. Cool. Great. You got people that love third-person shooters. You have people that love flight combat, and bring them all together, and they can beat the hell out of each other.
That's the deepest little girl voice I've ever heard, by the way.
Then you and I have different histories, my friend.
Nutjob Jim, actually, this is a very good question.
His name is Nutjob Jim. That's pretty impressive.
And it's a great question, too. And it is an important. Why not include bots for offline play in Warhawk?
we weren't super happy. One of the okay, if anyone didn't know, Warhawk is multiplayer only. It's not online only. You can play offline because we all love playing. We love playing GoldenEye on the 64. We all still, I'm sure, many of the listeners still play Halo LAN parties, so you can still have that great experience with Warhawk. But when we scrapped single player, it was because we weren't happy with the quality, and we didn't think we were going to get the quality bar before our release date. And the AI kind of falls into that. We would definitely have loved to include bots, but our decisions were driven 100% by, if it's not going to be top shelf, don't put it out there for the player. And with the game being as fast-paced as Warhawk is, because it's not a very forgiving, slow-paced sim where you can have an AI poorly navigate for 3 miles and then do this weird transition. It's very fast-paced. You're on the ground. You're in a Warhawk. You fly 4 miles. You land. You hop out. You run into a Jeep. You drive around. And our AI was really having difficulty keeping pace. It wasn't good enough. So should bots be in there? Bots should be in there if they're great. And we weren't going to be having great bots. So we said, look, let's not do it, because you know what? We put a feature into a game that sucks. Our players are not getting their money's worth. We need to focus all of our efforts in making sure that they get a top shelf game on what we're focusing on.
Do you think that it's possible that in the future that if the demand is high enough and you can actually take maybe some extra time to work on a bots program possibly and add that in the future?
Yeah, we don't have any efforts slated right now for bots. Right now, we have a big chunk of our group focused on supporting Warhawk through launch. And actually, I think some of your members asked earlier about post-launch support and patching and downloadable content, and that's really where we're focused right now. Patching in bots. If there's a clamor for it and there's an opportunity there, then we'll address it.
Okay.
But right now, we're really trying to stay true to the multiplayer only thing.
Dream versus PS2, who's a very frequent contributor to our message boards, would like to know several questions. I'll pick out a few key ones here. One of them...
you can ask any of these questions.
I like the first one.
Ask the first one.
The first one is Warhawk going to get a lower score because of the $40 PSN price? 1UP is going to give it a 1-point reduction. Are we going to give it a lower score, you think?
I don't know. You know what? It was actually a really interesting debate that happened. It raged. 1UP did their thing, and then it kind of spilled over and kind of ballooned into NeoGAF, and then spilled over to the 1UP boards again. And this is a dangerous position to take, but I do tend to think that price does matter. So in their case, I think a lot of the people were concerned, how do you score games like Shadowrun or World of Warcraft or things like that? Mm-hmm. And you know what? Every publication is going to score on their own metrics, right? They have a well-known reputation. They'll score according to their tables and to their own editors, and that's great. That's their thing. It's not for me to tell them it's right or wrong. I personally think that games should be scored on 2 key elements. Objective quality and value. And it is hard to judge value if you don't factor in price. So I think price should come into the equation somehow.
I think price is a big factor as well. But for me, at least what I tell my guys here is when they review games is the most single important factor when reviewing any game is whether or not it's fun. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah, and when all of that happened, and I posted, look, you're going to get a great-looking, great-playing game on the PlayStation Network for $39. This is not a 2-hour gimmick puzzle game or arcade port. I mean, people during the beta logged 40, 50, 60, 70 hours of gameplay. You get that much fun, and anyone who's played Warhawk knows if you get that much fun for that long of a time, $40, $50, hell, even $60, it's still a damn good value. So you know what? It's one of those things we feel really great about where the title's at. Play the game. Let your buddies, you can jump in and play and make up your own mind.
You can always throw the old Neo Geo Kart prices in their face too if they get too out of hand.
I love the Neo Geo. It's awesome. You have no idea how long you'd have to save up for Metal Slug. It's Oh God, that's a lot of
It
papers.
could double as like a TV dinner tray.
Oh,
They were huge.
I think it stopped bullets. That cart was so friggin' big.
Dream also would like us to ask you if you're concerned about slow PSN download speeds. And let's be honest, compared to Xbox Live so far from when I played, it does seem a little bit slower, especially when downloading games.
You know what? I'm not on the infrastructure side, so I can't comment on the download speeds. But I will say that download speed in general, independent of the PlayStation Store, whether it be Xbox Live or PlayStation Store or even on your PC, download speeds is a big deal because I think part of the allure of a downloadable storefront is kind of the ADD quick access that you can get to content. And we spent a lot of time doing technology to make Warhawk as absolutely compressed as possible. I think a lot of people talk about it being 3 gigs or 2 gigs. If you were to inflate all the data, it would be huge. But when you download it, it is incredibly compressed. Not only our data structures are wicked compressed, but our file system by its very nature is incredibly compressed. So it's about 800 megs sitting on the hard drive, the whole game. And then what we do, if this is getting too techie, let me know, and I'll just blah, 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 ones and zeros. But and then what happens is, because we know everyone's going to be concerned about how much hard drive space they have, and, oh, do I dedicate it to this game or that game, or I might have a movie or MP3s or whatever. So it sits compressed on the hard drive and never ends up being uncompressed until the very minute you demand the content. So you load a level, and then at that point, we take a few of the SPUs on the cell. The content comes in compressed, and we decompress it on the fly into main memory. Then the player uses it, and then we flush it. So on the hard drive, whether you're using it, it always stays compressed, and we only decompress it into main memory. So this guy is, what's his name? Dream v PSP? Dreamcast versus PS2?
Uh-huh.
I love the Dreamcast, but at any rate, yeah, it is a big issue. Our concern for ours, not just PlayStation Store wise, but just download speeds and hard drive footprint in general. So we've tried to do as much as we can.
And what about in terms of servers? How many servers have you got dedicated to this game, and how are you going to react if it gets bigger than you think it's going to be?
Well, thankfully, Jeff has given me his credit card.
Oh, good.
So I'm going to run out and buy a bunch of PS3s. I can't.
roll it up.
Yeah, I can't speak to the infrastructure side on the actual store, but as far as game servers go, we've put our IT group in San Diego's made an amazing effort. I don't know if you've seen the Sony blog, but we posted some photos of our Warhawk server cluster. And if you've ever seen 150 plus PS3s racked together, it's a pretty daunting sight.
It's got to be hot as hell, too. all those PS3s
Yeah,
in one spot.
I sneak Hot Pockets in there, and it cooks the Hot Pocket. Yeah, it's really tasty.
Speaking of blogs, the Warhawk blog on IGN is going up sometime this week.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So instead of doing kind of PR stuff, we're hoping that the IGN Warhawk Dev blog is going to be more just kind of giving the IGN readers behind the scenes looks at to the different roles that people on the team played. The first post that we're going to be making on Wednesday is from our animation lead, and it's not so much color commentary as it is just, here's how we animate the character. Here's how the procedural animation system works. Here's how the vehicle animation systems work. So it's not tips or strategies or anything like that. I mean, if you're interested at how the game was made, definitely hit this blog, and we're going to be posting that stuff up on Wednesday.
Cool. And how often do you plan on updating your IGN blog?
Every couple of days. We'll have people view it, and it'll be a great forum to have your readers post comments, and then we'll respond. We're generally pretty well known for a pretty active involvement with our community. So, at the very least, every couple of days.
Good. That's excellent. So remember, IGN, how's that for some promotion?
And Hot Pockets.
That's right. 2779 asks a great question. It's one that we were wondering ourselves once they announced that you could do it. Are you going to be making a level for Little Big Planet?
Are we going to be making a level for Little Big Planet?
User-created content? I mean, come on. You guys are professional developers.
Yeah. No, we hadn't planned on that. Although I'm super excited about Big Planet. I'll probably grab the game and make my own levels and all that stuff, but we don't have anything planned for Little Big Planet.
If they start a letter writing campaign, would you respond to it?
No, I'm not even going to. If you got 10,000, no. No, I'm super excited about Little Big Planet. I wish you could. I want to see, can you make a cannon and launch one of the characters? I mean, I know you can throw guys and get them on the spinner things, but they just look so cute and cuddly that you just want to smash them.
I really like that game when I've played. The controls are a little floaty. I don't know how much have you played it. Have you played it at all?
A fair bit.
Little floaty for me because I'm used to the sort of the tight jumping controls, but the idea is great.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah,
I love the art design.
And again, I'm going to go off the techie deep end a bit here, but what a lot of gamers don't realize is that the constructive solid geometry stuff that they're doing with how their levels are built is crazy awesome. I mean, it's amazing, and so to see that stuff in a game in real time is staggering. So kudos to Media Molecule.
Definitely. You guys want to take over some questions? I feel like I'm hogging all the questions here. There you go, Greg. Ask something.
All right.
As Greg reaches over and grabs the...
I realize I am the host, but you know.
Skyline 34 GTR was wondering, what are your future plans now that Warhawk is finished? Are you going to be immediately moving to a new project, or will you take some time off?
Well, I will be taking some time off eventually.
Slacker.
Thank you very much. Ball gag. But we're not. We've tried to set up our vacation after the game releases because it would be horribly bad form to release the multiplayer game and then have the dev team go on vacation. So let's say it gets crazy popular and there's an issue. Where's the dev team? Oh, they're in Fiji. I'm sorry. We won't be able to support you. So, we're staying on through the launch of the title, and I'm going to take some vacation, and then we're going to be looking at taking some feedback and some input from the player base and look at downloadable content. So.
Skyline also wants to know, are you going to be involved in downloadable content? Are you just done with it now? You walk away?
We'll definitely do downloadable content. One of the things I was mentioning off mic earlier was, I'm a firm believer that downloadable content needs to be driven by what the players want, and not just some type of, hidden revenue source where we stick content into the game and then they pay to unlock it later. I think that kind of breaks the publisher gamer trust. And so we looked through the public beta and got a lot of really great feedback as to features and layout elements that players wanted in a new level, and also some new vehicle stuff. So we're rolling all of that, and we're going to be moving forward with that. No official announcements right now. So
see, what I think would be a good idea is if you only give the Warhawk one thruster from the beginning, and
yes.
you make them pay for the second thruster,
right,
so they're only doing circles.
No, totally. Because we used to joke. This is so sad. We used to joke inside the studio about the player jumps in and he's running around on the ground and he presses the X button and a little pop up blink. Would you like to unlock jump functionality for just $2.99? You can open up the X button. Okay, ding ding. It would be horrible.
But you'd be rich beyond your wildest dreams.
No, I don't think so. Honestly, no. This is an important thing about I think downloadable content. I think, we do well when the gamers are happy with what they get, and us ravaging gamers and nickel and diming them is not. I don't think that is a sound business model. I think if you look back at the success of iTunes, besides their fantastic hardware, Steve Jobs had amazing foresight to hold his ground about the ability to download individual songs off an album. They maybe could have made more money by forcing everyone to download big bulk albums, but that convenience and doing right by their consumers, turned everything wild for them. And I think we need to do the same thing with our stuff. So,
cool. David Doell asks, Dylan, hypothetically speaking, which incognito IP has the best chance of getting a PS3 game from Sony? Downhill Domination, War of the Monsters, or Twisted Metal?
I have no idea.
Well, Stone Cold chimes in with Downhill Domination 2 on MotorStorm engine. Make it happen.
Make it happen. Yeah. So, let me talk about that a little bit. I was obviously heavily involved with War of the Monsters because I was producer on that title. Twisted Metal and Downhill Domination were Scott Campbell's games. I personally would love to see a Twisted Metal on the PS3. I think it would be killer. And with Dave and Scott forming their new studio, they were really, when Twisted Metals were done by those guys, they were the best. And they would definitely be the appropriate people to do that. But whether they're doing it or something they're going to look to in the future, I'm in the same camp as all the other gamers. I hope they do, but I'll just have to keep my fingers crossed.
Okay. Here's a very long one that I'll try to boil down.
Oh, my
But it's a
God.
good one. Korkowski-01. I'm guessing that's how I pronounce it.
I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
How
Where
would
do
you
these
pronounce
names
it
come
then, huh?
from?
Tough guy?
Let me see this.
Read this one.
Korkowsker?
You realize you're wearing a shirt that says antlers on it, right?
Oh, I know.
Cork.
You can pronounce that word, see?
Korkowski.
Is it? It's not corkscrew or 01. It's cork.
Korkowski.
Okay, you go. I think you were close the first time.
Oh, the beta didn't really have much content alluding to the overall story for Warhawk. Why are these two factions fighting, etc.? Will there be any kind of content in the final game, such as an introductory video or written content explaining the overall premise of the game? One of my reasons for asking, and this is something I've wondered too,
Okay.
is I'm wondering why all the weapons in the game are all pretty much traditional World War II and or Vietnam era weapons, besides the Warhawk, obviously.
And the
I thought
energy
didn't they have those
energy
in-
weapons
I thought-
and the cloak and the all
Well,
of
cloak
that
was
stuff.
used in Vietnam quite heavily.
Was it?
I'm
Was
pretty
it
sure.
the cloaking.
Obviously, you don't
Right.
read Hellboy, because that was definitely in the World
Yeah,
War
there's-
II.
Okay.
All sorts of
All right. It's a good question. So thank you. I'm sorry we massacred your name. Yeah, we because we were doing single player originally, we had a shit ton of backstory, content, characters, all of that stuff. And then when we shifted all of the single player off to the side, we definitely left a lot of that. And I think in hindsight, I think there's an opportunity there to bring some of the flavor back into the world. But we wanted to focus our efforts. I think a lot of people want backstory, and I think it's a good opportunity to possibly put it up there as like maybe some of our scripts or our world history. Put it up on warhawk.com. Make it free. People can view. I mean, don't just tag it on the back of the box. It's like, now you get videos that we cut or whatever. I think it's with this. There's some hardcore fans that really want it, and we'll definitely look to alluding to that stuff on warhawk.com later. But I think for most parts, I mean, we wanted this to be in many respects like this crazy killer warfare board game, right? You never crack open Parcheesi and want the backstory between the little zebra piece and the elephant piece or whatever. And so in our game, you've got controls that are very similar, and they are built upon expectations that I think a lot of war gamers have, and it's classic, red versus blue, good guy versus bad guy, and we don't try to bury the game down in a lot of extra backstory and all that. It's just like it's a really fun game. Get in, have fun, and for those of you guys that want the backstory, we'll put some stuff up later for it.
For people, we'll make it.
For people
No,
listening,
we'll make it up. So like the bad guys, they are like at the lasers. And, but I want to mention something that he's actually very astute, and he mentioned the kind of the underpinnings of the World War II era stuff. There was a lot of effort put into the game to reference some World War II era technology and design aesthetic. We didn't want to be just another off-the-shelf World War II game. But it's kind of this alternate World War II kind of scenario. It's not on Earth, and it's not, good guys versus Nazis or whatever. But there are aspects of like classic vintage, Warhawk Mustang lines in the actual aircraft themselves, or Messerschmitt lines in the way the Nemesis fighter is set up, or even some of the heavy iron World War I tanks. You can see elements of that inside all of the Chernobyl stuff. But at the same time, it's kind of a mashup, right? Because we've got energy weapons and, more sci-fi elements. So it's kind of a mix.
is there any tie whatsoever to the original Warhawk on PlayStation in terms of storyline or enemy or anything like that originally when it was a single-player game as well?
Yes, there actually, in the single player, there was far more of a tie. And in multiplayer, the Warhawk controls, the Warhawk itself stays very true to the original Warhawk. It hovers and flies, which I think is a really nice change of pace because you can play, helicopter mode basically, and then you can play jet mode. And of course, the name, of course, that's
right
on the box. And really, it's more about the essence. It's the fast, non-sim aircraft gameplay that we tried to carry over, and that's really about where it ends. So.
Cool. Now Jeff's got the paper because we believe in community question asking.
Beyond.
Awesome.
Rogue Leader, another frequent contributor.
Every episode, it seems.
Stay on target.
Rogue Leader
Decided to ask a question. I was really concerned about the amount of maps in this game. There's really only 5. Technically, they can be split up, but I don't know if I would count that as being unique maps. Or, I guess it's supposed to be unique.
I can't see him.
as opposed to just a different configuration of the same map. So my question is, are the maps so large that you could split up the maps enough so that they at least feel like there is more than 5 maps, even when playing a game with a full 32 people? I wasn't in the beta, so I have no knowledge of the actual map size.
I never played the game, but
No.
I'm not happy with what you have done.
No.
Beyond.
I think it's even though he never played the game, I think it's a good point to question. I think what he's saying is true to some degree. There are 5 worlds in the game. There are 5 kind of quote-unquote maps, and it depends on how you break up map, level, layout, blah, 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 semantics aside. There are 5 world styles, and then each of those 5 world styles have different battlefield layouts. And they play very differently, whether you have a big game or a small game, if you're doing a little capture the flag in just one building or one city or 2 cities or across the whole continent, whatever. So I think there's been a bit of confusion there about, we say, there's 25 different maps. Well, there's not 25 different world styles. You're not going to play on a snow level and a volcano level and, 25 different ones of those. You've got 5 different world styles, and each one of those has 5 different layouts. And we're really happy with the amount of content. We got great positive response from the beta, and I look forward to Rogue Leader playing it. And then he can judge for himself.
PlayStation 3.
He might. So we're actually really happy with the amount of content, so he should play it. I look forward to him playing it.
Renderman asks, is there a lot of shared technology between Sony developers such as Incog, Naughty Dog, Studio Liverpool, etc., or are each isolated and focused on their own things?
Well, this guy's a bit more plugged in than normal. What's his name, Renderman?
Yeah.
Probably because he's calling out some Pixar software. I think that's one of the great things about the WWS, the Worldwide Studio stuff that's been set up recently. There's a really great communication between all the developers. It's not so much as a direct sharing of tech, but I think one of the great benefits that we've had is just the open communication from all of the teams, whether it be in our internal dev forums or whatever. We can almost divide and conquer. Some studios are working on this type of tech, and we're working on some other type of tech, and we can all post code snippets and discuss. And quite honestly, a lot of the value just comes from emailing the different teams back and forth, like, hey, we saw this, what's going on here, what are you doing there? And that back and forth is really beneficial. So I think there's definitely some sharing going on.
That one, you think, or should we move down to some of the?
I like this one.
You can ask any question. No holds barred.
Forgotten Future wants to know why you cut your hair.
Jesus Christ!
Because Jesus Christ told him to. There you go.
What would Jesus do? Jesus. There's better questions here that you should ask than that one. But I'll comment on this one. Honestly, I cut my hair right about the time we cut single player.
Metaphorical.
Yeah, it was. I de-scoped my hair too. So,
how much will Warhawk be to download in the UK? Anybody know?
I don't know. What does he say here? He says he says £20 would be ideal.
Yeah. It would be perfect.
Would be perfect.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I mean that's like $40 US. I don't know what they're going to charge in the UK.
Safe bet to be comparable, though. You think?
I don't know. I would imagine so. I think there's definitely. I think over in the UK they pay more. Like if you actually do the currency exchange, the titles are more expensive over there. So I don't know. Their pricing model is, of course, they don't talk to me about it. But actually, we get this question a ton on the blog. When's it coming out? When's it coming out in Japan? When's it coming out in Europe? I'm in Australia. Well, I get to play. Yes. We're releasing it all over the place. But there are the producers and the individual teams in all those territories that are. I promise you, they're all working very hard to get Warhawk bundled up and ready to go in all those territories. But pricing and release date, those are all announcements that they need to make.
And for people who don't know, will someone, once it's out ever, will someone in the UK be able to play someone here?
Hell yes, yeah. Worldwide launch and worldwide connectivity was critical for us. It was actually kind of an interesting challenge on the dev side because we were U.S., Canada, all the territories in Europe, Australia, China, Korea, even Russia, Japan, and all of them connect to all the servers. So I can be playing with a clan in Korea versus a clan in one of the Scandinavian nations. I mean, you can be played all over the place, all simultaneously. So yeah, worldwide connectivity was a key thing for us.
Did you learn anything from the Resistance multiplayer that the Insomniac guys have done? Are you using something similar to that model that they used for Resistance, or did you guys build your own technology from?
Well, there's certainly some underlying Sony libraries that we leverage pretty heavily. Our approach was a little bit different, just because right out of the chute we're worldwide connected, and I think Resistance dropped that into one of their patches.
Right.
So my familiarity with their worldwide, like what's going on their server side, is pretty minimal. So I don't know if there's a lot of similarities or not. I suspect that there are some similarities. So.
Well, Jeff Ramzaroop wants to know if you could only release Warhawk on either PSN or retail, but not both, which would you choose?
See, he didn't give me the option to go cart-based.
8-bit?
8-bit cart. No, Neo Geo cart.
Neo Geo cart.
It'd be the biggest Neo Geo cart ever. Wow, if you had to do one, I would probably do retail. Because I think we've gotten a lot of positive response about the bundle. We were able to put in a great Bluetooth headset. And I think a lot of players want the disc. They want the physical media. And if you had to choose one, I would probably do retail, because I think the PlayStation Store is still this evolving thing. But I do think that it's fantastic that we're doing both, because then players have a choice, right? Like, I've tried to be pretty open about giving players options and doing right by the gamer. And, we've had some people post like, man, I already have a headset, so I'm going to download it off the store. Cool. And you pay less money for it. Great. So players can pick and choose. But if I had to choose one, I would probably pick retail. But I wouldn't want to choose. I would probably do both.
And Belvedere 350 wants to know, what can the PS3 community expect in regards to future downloadable content for Warhawk? I know it's coming, but in what form? For example, will you guys be sticking with simply adding more vehicles, weapons, and levels, or can we expect new gameplay modes or changes? Cough, cough. Parachutes and sticky grenades. Cough.
Well, I think, yes, we are definitely looking at downloadable content, and I'll restate what I mentioned earlier, and that is that we're not just rehashing stuff that you guys should have already paid for in the first place. We're looking at a lot of the feedback we got through the beta, and we're also looking at making a big effort to get information from forums from when the title's actually released, and we're going to use that to drive our new content. The sky's the limit as far as what we want to add. It all comes down to pacing, right? So we want to make sure that the community is well supported with service patches and good community support there. We want to make sure that there's downloadable content available for people to play. And there's kind of a pacing that we want to try to keep for content so that people can continually be excited about the product. So whether that's vehicles or levels or new modes, new paint schemes, it's whatever. I tend to think that if we were just to drop a level out there, sure, it's a new level, and I think people would buy it. But I think as a gamer, I want a bit more than that. I want some new hook, new way to play the game. So, I bought Warhawk, I played it, I really love it. Maybe I see I really want to do this kind of thing. It's more than just playing in a new environment. I'd want to see a level or an expansion that is a level and a new vehicle, so that it by its very nature plays out a different way. It's a new environment, and then I'd love to see that new vehicle retrofitted into some of the original levels as well, and not just be isolated to that expansion pack. So, we haven't made any decisions one way or the other, but that's kind of where our head's at.
Where do you sort of draw the line in your overall whiteboard and your future plans about what would come into a sequel and what you would move into downloadable content?
Chris Roper lives.
I've been waiting.
He's been over in the corner the whole time. You know what? None of the stuff that we're throwing around in our brainstorming sessions have sequel tagged to it. I think, and this is one of the great opportunities that Sony's given us the flexibility that when you release a multiplayer-only game that focuses so heavily online and the PlayStation Store, it kind of blurs the line of what is a sequel, right? Unless there's a gargantuan tech upgrade that can't be quote-unquote patched in. At this point, with what the PlayStation Store allows you, we could replace all of the content So there's no real limitation there. But sorry, ramble. Yeah, we're not really thinking of it in terms of sequel. We're thinking of it in terms of, kind of a living, breathing community game thing that we'll continue to support and update. And if at some point there's some radical departure that is, clearly a sequel, well, then we'll look at it. But we're not marketing anything in the sequel bin right now.
Realistically, for people out there who are really excited about the game and really want to put in a lot of time, how many years do you think you're going to support the game before saying, okay, that's enough content and we're done with it?
Just shy of 1,000 years.
Nice.
Is really our tech plan.
Until electricity becomes
Sounds like
outdated.
AI.
That's right.
Then the robots will come down at the end of the
That's
iceberg.
totally, and they touch the little boy, and it's all very questionable.
Was anyone else confused by that, by the way? I thought they were aliens at first. Turns out they're robots.
They're robots.
They're robots.
There was
They're
no
robots.
confusion.
I thought they're.
I was
I still
confused.
thought they were aliens.
No, they were
they're
robots.
slim
They were
robots.
advanced. Yeah.
Are they alien robots?
No,
No, they're-
they're robots.
They're advanced robots.
Yeah.
They
That's
evolved
why-
out of Warhawk.
Wait, is
Yeah.
this them?
It's Return of Gigolo Joe, but slimmer.
Right. We patched him in
Yeah.
about 2,000 years in the future.
Yeah.
So look for that. We don't have a turn off date or anything like that. It's one of those things that if the game is popular and people love playing it, well, of course Sony supports it. I mean, hell, Sony supports online games still on the PS2. A lot of people still have a great time playing that. So. There's no kind of termination date like, we're turning it off in 2012, which everything is going to turn off anyways because of the Mayan calendar and
That's
all
right.
that stuff.
The world ends.
Right. Well, we got to get the robots resolved by then. So.
Wait, AI was the movie with Haley Joel Osment as the robot?
It was.
I thought they were aliens too.
I
How'd you
told you.
figure
They're
out?
not.
Did you,
They're
read,
more
did you read the novel
It's commentary.
adaptation?
No, if you
Oh,
listen to the commentary, they reveal it. Or if you read the book, but readings for chumps.
Of course.
When you watch that movie, could you tell the point at which
It jumped the
Kubrick
shark?
stopped and there was the Spielbergian startup? Because that was part of the way through.
No,
No?
where was it?
Well, it's
I think it
part
was-
of a debate, but yeah, it was
I think
part
it
of the
might
way
have
through.
been the death farm for the robots or something like that. Because
Maybe.
that started getting into more of the kind of a lot of the things that Spielberg would do with
Spielbergian formula
yeah,
and
like
all
the
that.
formula, like some of the Schindler's List kind of thing of persecuting people and everything else, which I think he actually talked about in his Spielberg on Spielberg.
Oh, really?
I knew it was Spielberg when he whipped that one guy's the drink out of his hand and pulled his heart out of his chest.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that
Remember
was
the
And
teddy
then
bear?
the giant rock came down.
exactly. And he ran away from it. Hey,
I need to rewatch this movie.
Just like that.
What about Lego Indiana Jones?
That game's awesome.
That's going to be awesome.
Oh my God!
I've never seen it. I haven't played it, but I love the Star Wars game.
Dude,
So I'm
you know what?
looking
It
forward
had me at when you see the little Lego Indy running down and he's dodging that super blocky Lego boulder. I was like, that is an awesome game.
to it. That leads us into our final question, by the way,
Oh, boy.
about Warhawk, which is really more about you. It's other than your own game. What game are you really looking forward to playing this year, or games?
Well, I'm really looking forward to Halo. We were talking about the Halo drink earlier, right? The Brute Juice or the whatever it is, the Mountain Dew
Cop syrup.
stuff. I'm actually really, so it's probably Halo. It's going to be a difficult Christmas because there's a lot of good shit coming out. Halo, Heavenly Sword, Galaxy. I'm really interested to play Mario Galaxy. And Warhawk, of course, but I figured that would be a cop-out answer if I answered, I am going to play Warhawk the whole time, which I'm not. Those are probably the three big games that I'm looking forward to. And that will pretty much consume all of my time, mostly over the holiday
Are you
season.
an RPG gamer? Are you looking forward to Eternal Snot or Mass Effect or any of those?
No, well, I'm not. My wife is. So there will be some contention over the PS3 and the Xbox and the Wii and all of that stuff because I have all my consoles. Everyone wonders like, oh, you work for Sony? Do you only have PS3? It's like, no, I have all the consoles. I have a Dreamcast still. Soul Calibur. It's awesome on the Dreamcast. Yeah, I think BioWare, they always do fantastic titles, and Mass Effect just looks crazy. I'm really excited to see how I haven't played it yet at all. I know you guys have probably played it behind the scenes, but I'm really interested to see how the more action-oriented gameplay kind of makes that transition. We saw a little bit of that with Jade Empire, but this being more of a distant combat, where theirs was more kind of up close. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be cool.
The number one most anticipated game, if we took a consensus right now, is BioShock. What do you think about that one?
BioShock looks interesting to me, but I'm kind of creeped out by it because when I watched the first trailer, and that little girl crawls out the vent, right, and she's like, "Look, Mr. Bubbles, Adam," and she runs over with the syringe, and she's like going. And there's blood shooting out all over the place.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. Their shadowing, I think, looks great. and I'll play it. I mean, I think I buy a lot of games and play parts because I just don't have time to beat most games. Now, I don't know if many people do anymore. I don't know, but pick up a game, play it a little bit, kind of get the core vibe, look at its tech, and then it gets slotted into a box. So I'm looking forward to it. I just want to see what's up with that little creepy girl.
I'll find out next week. Comes out on the 21st.
She's pretty creepy.
She is.
Look, Mr. Bubbles, Adam!
And now we go to our reader question segment.
For all.
Questions for all. Greg even highlighted it for us.
We have many segments of questions this week.
That's right. So the man whose name we can never pronounce correctly, I am Mackin. Whatever his name is, says that when he was 16, he stayed up for 85 plus hours playing Final Fantasy VI from beginning to end.
Lord.
I found all the characters, got every elite item and summon, and leveled all the characters at least 85. I did this without sleep thanks to a steady diet of Captain Crunch sprinkled with coffee grinds. This is my most hardcore gaming story. What do you guys consider your most hardcore gaming moment?
Oh,
Dylan.
wow.
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, I'm actually intrigued by the fact that I hope he threw out the couch or chair that he sat on that whole time, because that thing is probably going to be a super fun sight here pretty soon. Wow, the most hardcore moment. I got into playing the first Quake pretty ridiculously, and played Quake CTF for 13. I mean, it pales in comparison to his 85-hour marathon, but played one session for 13 hours straight. And I was actually, this was at one of the companies that I worked on before I was in the gaming industry. And the team I was on, they couldn't return the flag. And I don't know if any of the listeners remember the grapple. Remember, it was like that pink, it was like they hacked in a rune and it like stuck to the wall or whatever. And they couldn't figure out how to use that and get around the room. And I got so pissed off at them. I grabbed a pen, threw it across the office. And I was not in a gamer-friendly office at the time. And it hit the wall and smashed, and it was like a red marker, and it left like a red smear across the wall. And and now I'm coming out telling people that I did it, but at the time everyone wondered, like, how did that blood smear get up on the wall? It was a marker. Anyhow, Quake, 13 hours, not 85 hours. Rest his soul.
Rope?
Well, I mean, I waited in line for 13 hours for the PS2, but it's not gaming, but it's related to it. But I didn't do any of those overnight things, but that was pretty big. But I played when EverQuest launched. It was probably about 6 months after launch. Was when I got the first game, and I played that game pretty diligently for like 2 months, and then immediately got burned out and haven't been able to play any MMO since then, including World of Warcraft. But like when I was big into that game for like 2 months, I'd play like 30 hours at a stretch sometimes.
We should go out back and kill rabbits and snakes and stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
that'll bring it all back.
Keep in
for
mind,
you.
this was in like the year 2001 or whatever it was, and like the whole .com thing happened, so my web design job didn't so much work out, and I was sitting at home and I'm like, well, might as well just play EverQuest.
That's good.
So those are my longest. But I played the hell out of the Quake test when that hit, like when I was in college, and it was like, because I've been playing Doom then, and all of a sudden Q test hits, and you're like, holy shit, I can play anybody over the internet and drop it in and out of servers. And
yeah,
I played one match that was like, we had the same server running without resetting for like 4 hours. I mean, I played multiple games after that, but we had, the top dude had like 500 kills in one match after that was over, and it was like
so Twitch.
Yeah,
I know the endorphin rush from that type of game is still unparalleled. So,
Greg?
The amount of Metal Gear Solid 2 I played in college. Like I went through and got all the dog tags and took all the pictures and ended up just memorizing it. And I didn't realize I memorized it until somebody called me from back home and was like, "Hey, I'm stuck here on this part of the tanker." And I just walked them through it. Like there was not even a second of me going,
you're a living hint.
All right, you gotta go here, but what difficulty you on? All right, well, Guard's gonna come out in like a few
dog
seconds.
tags.
Yeah, exactly.
And open up that locker because there's a rare girly pick on the third rock. No, wrong one.
Yeah. You missed it. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
Jeff?
I'm trying to remember. It would either be playing through all of the gold box like Dungeons and Dragons games, like back to back, and Pool
You mean
of
like
Radiance.
SSI stuff?
Yeah, the old school
Oh
SSI,
my
like
God.
Pool of Radiance, like that whole thing.
Eye of the
like,
Beholder.
Yeah, like I think I got all of the gold boxes in like one time, and then like through a week I basically sat down and flew through all of it. Like I slept like maybe an hour or so.
That makes you a level 70 plus elite nerd. The fact that you bought the bundle SSI pack.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing.
I love the fact that you wrote it down to show him, too.
That was like a you've achieved super Kirk.
You've achieved nerddom. But yeah, I think I sat down and played that for like a good week and had like maybe an hour that I gave myself for like showering, eating, and sleeping. And just like would alternate and just go through the entire
There's
thing.
no crapping in there at all.
Well,
You just must have been like super backed up the whole time.
yeah. You know, you couldn't imagine the smell.
I suspect if you were going to go on it, and I do not condone this in any way, but if you were going to go on a super gaming bender and did not want to be troubled by bodily function, you could probably just eat like 3 boxes of Triscuits and like totally back yourself up and be like, I'm all good. And at the end, just
set off a bomb.
Well, we've all
totally.
seen the episode of South Park and World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
You can always go that route.
Yeah, I watched that episode with my wife, and she still is super hardcore into World of Warcraft. And listening to Cartman and those guys talk like over TeamSpeak was cutting a little too close to home, because when Cartman's like, all right, now bind me with your shards of infinite power and then give me a level 12 buff. Excellent. Okay, now move and pull that guy. Fantastic. And it's like, oh my god, like it's up there. It's so freaky.
I love
You know,
that.
they included the World of Warcraft like trial on the DVD set.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant.
Comes out in a week. I'm getting that.
Yep.
I love that episode. For me, my most hardcore gaming moment was probably just staying up, playing through Final Fantasy IV beginning to end with my brother. We love those games. Either that or beating bad dudes on NES without dying.
I have one more hardcore moment. Quick.
Go for it.
I was in Japan when they released Wind Waker, and Wind Waker was probably one of my favorite games of all time. Star Raiders was up there, and imported it. Of course, couldn't play it, so then bought myself a Q. For any of you hardcore gamers out there, that's the Panasonic, right? Chrome, very fancy looking cube. Played it through in Japanese, and it was really hardcore because I don't speak or read Japanese. But I thought it was really interesting. It was a testament to how well that game was designed, because I couldn't read or speak the language at all, and I was able to play it from start to finish. And so I think that's a really good way to know if a game is killer, is if you can import the Japanese version and still have a great time.
Only took
King
me
of
4
Fighters.
years.
You know, well,
Yeah, you left at the time frame. I just beat it last
I
week.
just beat it. Was awesome. I didn't know that the bow, you can have the light. And yeah, the hardest part of that whole game wasn't actually any of the game puzzles at all. It was the part where you had the pirate password. And in Japanese, you have to put in the character and then do the accent mark. And that's really hard because I didn't know about the accent marks at the time. So anyhow, nerddom.
We're running out of time.
We are running out of time.
So we'll throw in one more question, and we'll get the pick of the week. The final question actually is for you. Will home trophies, and it actually goes back to Warhawk, are home trophies going to be supported in Warhawk?
I sure hope so. Right now, we're releasing the product right now. And, you know, I think Home is, I'm looking at our Sony PR guy. Home's still in beta right now, right? Yeah. And so we have a list of home functionality that we want to bring to the Warhawk universe. And so as it's made available to us in home, we're definitely going to look to support it. We did some initial Warhawk trophies. I think they were showed at a press conference, I think at Gamers Day or GDC. And I'd love to do the trophies, move that forward, and also do some of the apartment content. One of the things that we'd love to do is the notion of like these World War II sand table kind of things. You know how they demoed like dropping a TV or a couch or something like that? I thought it would be really great if people who are playing in clans or friends, they could drop into their apartment like a little sand table version of one of the levels. So they could look at it and be like, okay, you camp over here and you do this. And so they can use a piece of functional furniture to help coordinate their game. So that's one of the things I'd really like to push, but we're not on that right now.
Cool. So now it's time for Pick of the Week. Pick of the Week is a weekly segment we do where we talk about what was cool came out last week. We recommend everyone goes out and get. But since we have a special guest, Dylan, what would be your pick of the week? What do you think people should go out there and play right now?
You know, I was joking about this earlier. I I just started playing Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. I never played it on the GameCube. That's a damn good game. I heard a lot of really great things about it, but that's a damn fun game. That's what my wife and I are playing right now.
How do you think it holds up next to something like God of War, or what was the game?
It doesn't look as good as God of War.
It was up there.
God of War is kind of this kudos to that team, and I guess to the hardware. God of War 2 is spectacular. It looks great. It holds its own against any game that's out there. And I don't think Resident Evil looks as good as that title, or it doesn't look as good as a lot of the next gen content, but it's still a fun game. God of War is a spectacular game, and I still can't believe it how well it sold at the end of the life cycle on the PS2. I mean, what a great way to go out on that hardware. So,
I still prefer the first one or the second one. That's just me.
Yeah. What? You prefer the first one over the second one?
Over the second one.
How come?
I like the story. I thought the second one. The story was a little bit too familiar. I thought that a lot of those points had been told before, especially if you beat a lot of the secret stuff on the first one. They'd already revealed some of the story points that they revealed in the second one. So I still thought I love the first boss battle on stage 1 of God of War 2 with the Colossus. That was a great.
Awesome. I just
battle.
like how I went in to play that game like 2 months before it came out, and I'm like, yeah. So what are you guys going to be doing about the third game and stuff? And everybody is sitting there like, we don't know if we're going to make a third God of War yet. We have to see if this game sells. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
I think they were. They had to have been.
No, I think they were dead serious. They were like, we have to see if this sells well or not. And I'm like, you're on crack.
That's not a total dodge. I mean, always you want to see. I mean, I think it's fair to say that God of War has been pretty damn successful.
Yeah, but I mean, the amount of people that were like, pining for, they were like, give us content. Whatever. They knew it was going to sell well. I mean. It was like, go ahead and admit that the third one's coming at some point, because I don't know. It's like saying, okay, we're going to release Grand Theft Auto 4, and let's see if it sells well before we start making Grand Theft Auto 5. You're like, well, anyway.
It's awesome. We're about to get cut off music. It's cool. Well, let me take this opportunity to say
we have to wrap it up.
We do have to wrap it up.
I thought you run the show.
I do, but we've got a limit on our file size. So
we can't compress the MP3 and then let it play through.
Yeah. So if you hear it, by the way, you can ignore it. I'm just going to move it back a little bit. But thank you very much for coming in and speaking with us.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Great to be here.
And also, let me take this opportunity since we have it. Oh, kick in the music. There, you hear it?
Okay.
There it goes.
Any IGN listeners and readers, hit the Warhawk blog. It's going to get posted on Wednesday. Post your comments. We'll watch it.
Yeah, cool. I will too.
Awesome.
And then also, let me take this opportunity to say, please make a sequel to War of the Monsters. Greg?
Yeah.
Take us out, man.
All right. Well, when I get to the chorus of this one, you're free just to say your goodbye, and I'll keep singing.
All right, go for it.
This one comes from Evil Emperor of Korea.
Kim Jong-il is giving us suggestions?
Apparently. He actually gave this last week, but
he's a fan. He was in the beta.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. This is Mambo number 5. What? Ladies and gentlemen, this is podcast number 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody grab your iPods. Come on, let's ride to the podcast room around the corner. Jeremy wants a Coke Zero, but I really don't wanna. Coffee buzz like I had last week. I must stay deep, cause talk is cheap. I like Nut to Job Jim 2779. J-Dog and FF Obsessed 86. And as I continue, it's getting sweeter.
The worst song ever.
What can I do to really make you beyond? To me, casting is just like a sport. Anything's fly. It's all good. Let me jump in. Please set the trumpet. A little bit of Beyond in my life. A little bit of David Doel by my side. A little bit of Stone Cold. That's
You're
what
having
I
way
need.
too much fun with this.
A little bit of Rogue Leader's what I see. A little bit of Giant Scoop.
Yeah. I think that's a K-Fed song, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a K-Fed song. That could be next week's song, Popo's Out.
It's over, thank God. We'll see you next week, everybody.
This is podcast number 8.